The silence hit the room before anyone realized what it meant. It started the moment Margaret Keller placed a thin cream envelope on the coffee table, right in the center of the living room of her suburban Oregon home. The late afternoon sun poured through the windows, warm and golden, but no one felt it. The air turned heavy, like the seconds before a storm. This was supposed to be a simple family moment. A reading of Grandma Eleanor's inheritance. Nothing dramatic. Nothing painful. At least that's what everyone believed. Emily Keller stood near the window, arms loosely crossed, watching the leaves fall outside. She was 32, calm on the surface, practiced at hiding disappointment. She had learned that skill early in life. Across the room, her younger sister Lauren sat close to their mother Margaret, her posture relaxed, her smile already forming as if she knew how this would end. Grandma Eleanor had been gone for 3 months, but her presence still filled the room. Her framed photos sat on the mantel, silver hair pulled back, eyes sharp yet kind. She had always said family should be fair, balanced, loving. Emily believed her. Margaret cleared her throat. "Your grandmother trusted me to handle everything properly," she said, lifting the envelope. Her voice was gentle but firm, the same tone she used when making decisions that were never questioned. Emily didn't sit. She stayed standing, heart steady, expression unreadable. Margaret opened the envelope and began to read. The house Lauren, the savings account Lauren, the antique jewelry. The one Eleanor promised would be shared Lauren. The investment portfolio. Eleanor built from nothing Lauren. Each word landed like a quiet, not sharp enough to cause a scene, but heavy enough to bruise. Emily felt the familiar sting of being overlooked. It's the same feeling she'd carried since childhood birthdays, where Lauren got the bigger cake slice, the better gifts, the louder praise. Lauren covered her mouth, pretending to be shocked, but her eyes shone. I don't even know what to say," she whispered. Margaret smiled softly at her. "Your grandmother always believed in you." Emily waited. Surely there was more. Surely fairness would appear at the end of the page. But Margaret folded. "The paper. That's everything," she said. The room stayed still. Emily didn't react. No tears, no raised voice. She simply nodded once, as if she had expected this outcome all along. Margaret glanced at her, uncomfortable. "Emily, you understand, don't you? You've always been independent. You never needed help the way Lauren did." Independent. The word echoed in Emily's mind. It was the excuse for everything. Why she paid her own college fees. Why she moved out early. Why she never asked for much. "I just need some air," Emily said calmly. She stepped outside onto the porch, breathing in the cool Oregon air. Her hands trembled slightly, but her face remained composed. Years of quiet endurance had taught her how to stay steady. Her phone buzzed. Daniel Harper. She smiled faintly. Daniel had a way of grounding her, even from miles away. They met 2 years earlier at a charity fundraiser in Seattle. He was thoughtful, observant, never rushed. He listened in a way that made people feel seen. Did it go okay? His message read, "Emily." Typed back quickly. "I'll explain later." She slipped the phone into her pocket and reached into her bag. Her fingers brushed against a slim folder, the edges worn from being opened too many times. She hadn't wanted to bring it. Part of her hoped she wouldn't need it at all, but Grandma Eleanor had insisted. Emily remembered the hospital room clearly. The quiet hum of machines. Eleanor's thin hand gripping hers. "People reveal themselves when money is involved," Eleanor had said softly. "Promise me something, Emily." "I promise," Emily replied, even before knowing what it was. "If things go the way I fear," Eleanor continued, "you'll know what to do." Emily stepped back inside. Lauren was already texting friends, excitement bubbling over. Margaret looked relieved, as if a difficult task had been successfully completed. Emily walked to the coffee table and gently placed the folder beside the envelope. "There's something else," she said. Margaret frowned. What's that? A document Grandma asked me to keep, Emily replied evenly. She told me to share it only if today went exactly like this. Lauren looked up sharply. What do you mean, exactly like this? Margaret hesitated, then picked up the folder. As she opened it, the color drained from her face. The room changed. This wasn't emotional writing. This was legal, formal, clear. It was a notarized codicil official addition to the will. It didn't take away the assets already listed. Instead, it transferred control of the family trust to Emily. Full authority, including the power to delay or freeze distributions if Eleanor's wishes were ignored. Lauren stood up. That's not possible. Key is, Emily said quietly. Margaret's hands shook. Why wouldn't she tell me about this? Emily met her eyes, said you wouldn't like it. The words settled between them, heavy and undeniable. Lauren's voice rose. So you're just going to take everything back? Emily shook. Her head, no, I'm not taking anything. I'm protecting what Grandma wanted. Margaret sank into the chair, stunned. For the first time, she looked unsure. Emily didn't feel angry. She felt clear. She loved us both, Emily continued. But she also knew favoritism when she saw it. She trusted me to make sure fairness wasn't just a word. No one argued. Lauren stared at the document, her earlier joy replaced with disbelief. Why didn't you say anything before? 'Cause I hoped I wouldn't have to, Emily answered. The room fell quiet again, but this time, the silence. Carried weight. Emily picked up her bag. I'm going to leave now. Margaret looked up. Emily, I'll be in touch through the attorney, Emily said gently. I don't want this to turn ugly. She walked out without waiting for permission as she drove away. Her phone buzzed again. Daniel, whenever you're ready, I'm here. Emily smiled, a soft, bittersweet curve of her lips. For the first time that day, her chest felt lighter. Behind her, the Keller house stood still, holding decades of unspoken truths. Ahead of her lay uncertainty, but also something new, taut control, and somewhere deep inside. Emily felt Grandma Eleanor's presence, calm and approving, as if to say, now they see you. And that realization changed everything. The phone rang before dawn, slicing through the quiet of Emily Keller's apartment in Portland. She hesitated, staring at the screen. It was Lauren. For weeks, no one had called. The tension after the reading of Grandma Eleanor's inheritance had turned their family into strangers in the same town, and Emily had been careful not to reach out. But Lauren's name blinking on the screen made her chest tighten. She pressed answer, bracing herself. Emily, can we talk? Lauren's voice trembled, soft, unsteady, almost unfamiliar. Emily didn't respond right away. She let the silence stretch, letting Lauren feel the weight of the weeks they had spent apart. Please, it's important, Lauren added. Emily finally nodded, even though Lauren couldn't see it. "'Kay," she said quietly. "I'll listen." The next afternoon, Lauren appeared at Emily's door, coat wrapped tight around her thin frame. Her usual confidence had faded, replaced with an uneasy humility. Emily led her inside, offering a seat on the sofa. Lauren's eyes flicked around, catching on the folder Emily had kept close since the will reading. I shouldn't have assumed everything. Lauren began fidgeting with her hands. Mom always made me feel, I don't know, chosen. I didn't question it. I just accepted it. She looked down, and for the first time, Emily saw genuine remorse. I never wanted to hurt you. Emily stayed silent. She didn't want to jump to forgiveness, but she also didn't want to worsen the tension. Instead, she observed Loren, the little habits, the nervous twist of a bracelet, the slight downward tilt of her shoulders. She remembered the girl she grew up with, the one she had once played board games with until dark, the one who sometimes made her laugh uncontrollably. It was strange how people could change with money and yet still be the same person inside. I know, Emily finally said, "You didn't know. Mom made decisions without considering how it would feel for me, for both of us. But this is bigger than who got what." She gestured toward the folder. "It's about fairness, respect, and honoring Grandma's wishes." Lauren nodded, swallowing hard. "I get it now. Can I don't want to fight with you. I don't want to lose you, Emily. You're my sister." Her voice cracked slightly, and Emily felt a lump in her throat. It was the first honest conversation they'd had since the reading. No lawyers, no money, no expectations, just family. That weekend, Emily needed space to think. She drove north to Whistler, Canada, where Daniel Harper had invited her for a quiet retreat. Snow lined the roads, and the mountains rose like sentinels, indifferent to human drama. The crisp air, the silence of the snowy woods, and the distant murmur of the river gave her perspective. She realized the fight with her family wasn't over, but she could choose how to engage. Daniel met her at the lodge. Its calm presence always had a grounding effect. Space sat by the fireplace, watching sparks dance upward from the flames. Emily recounted everything: the inheritance, the codicil, the weeks of tension, and her own quiet battle with feelings of resentment and hurt. Daniel didn't interrupt. He didn't offer advice or judgment. He simply listened. When she finished, he reached for her hand. "You did the right thing," he said quietly. "You honored your grandmother. And you didn't act out of anger or revenge." His thumb brushed hers, and Emily felt the warmth of human connection after weeks of emotional moonshal. Isolation. "I never wanted control," she admitted, eyes on the fire. "I just wanted to matter, to be seen. To know that fairness wasn't just a word." "You matter," Daniel said simply. "You always have. And now everyone will see it too." The weekend passed with long walks in the snow, quiet conversations, and moments of laughter. Emily felt something she hadn't felt in months: sense of peace. She wasn't running from the family conflict anymore. She was facing it with clarity. Returning to Portland, Emily found a letter from the family attorney waiting on her kitchen counter. It was time. Lauren had agreed to meet, and the terms of the trust needed discussion. Emily had reviewed the codicil, and she had the power to ensure that the assets were handled fairly. But she had no desire to punish anyone. Her goal was balance, not revenge. Lauren arrived at her apartment, visibly anxious. "I read the documents," she said. "I understand now. I see why you had to do this." Her voice was steady, but her eyes betrayed lingering doubt. "I want to make things right if I can." Emily nodded. "It's not about punishment. It's about honoring Grandma. Eleanor's intentions. She wanted both of us to be considered equally valued. And this is how she made sure that happens." They spent hours reviewing the trust together. Emily explained the conditions, the distribution rules, and the power she held to prevent misuse. Lauren listened attentively, sometimes flinching when she realized how close she had come to losing guidance on the assets entirely. But more importantly, she listened to Emily, not the lawyers, not her mother, not the societal expectations she had grown up with. She listened to her sister. Weeks turned into months. Margaret Keller, initially resistant, began calling occasionally, tentative, careful. She apologized for past actions, not fully perfect, but sincere. Emily accepted it, not for closure, but because she recognized the importance of restoring family bonds. It was never about winning. It was about healing. One spring evening, Daniel came to visit Emily at the apartment overlooking the Columbia River. The sky was streaked with gold, and purple, the water reflecting the slow retreat of the sun. He held out his hand. "Ready for what's next?" he asked with that quiet, gentle confidence that made her heart lift. Emily looked out at the river, breathing deeply. Conflicts, the betrayals, the moments of hurt, they hadn't disappeared. But she had gained something more valuable. She had clarity. She had agency. She had the courage to claim her place in the family, not through anger, but through respect and understanding. "Yes," she said, smiling softly, squeezing his hand. "I am." The inheritance had tested her, challenged her, and even isolated her. But in the end, it wasn't about the house, the money, or the jewels. It was about what Grandma Eleanor had truly wanted her granddaughters to learn. Sometimes the greatest inheritance isn't wealth. It's the power to claim your voice, to set boundaries, and to protect what matters most. Emily turned toward Daniel, feeling the warmth of the fire behind them and the cool evening air outside. For the first time in her life, she felt fully in control not of the assets themselves, but of how she would move forward in life. Love, family, and fairness were no longer abstract ideas. They were choices she could make moment by moment. Lauren, too, was learning. The younger sister who had once taken everything for granted was slowly understanding respect, equality, and humility. Their bond, once frayed, began to mend, built not on obligation but on genuine understanding. The sun finally dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in deep amber and violet. Emily looked out at the river, hand in Daniel's, feeling a quiet strength settle in her chest. She had survived favoritism, disappointment, and family tension. She had claimed her place not with aggression or spite, but with patience, intelligence, and courage. And as the first stars appeared in the evening sky, Emily realized what Grandma Eleanor had known all along. The true inheritance wasn't the money, the property, or the jewelry. It was the ability to protect what was right, to forgive, and to create a life filled with love, fairness, and self-respect. For Emily, that realization wasn't just a conclusion, was the beginning. A life where she was seen, valued, and free to move forward. A life where she could love and be loved without fear or regret. The river reflected her smile, steady and serene, as if it too acknowledged that this was the moment she finally claimed her inheritance, not of wealth, but of dignity, clarity, and the quiet power to shape her own future. And in that gentle spring evening, Emily Keller knew she had everything she truly needed.